Are you tired of the old ways of trying to recruit friends and family to your MLM? Tactics just don't work anymore. Have you wanted to quit and say the heck with this, but something still gives you that burning desire to rock this business? All you needed was the way. This is Network Freaking Marketing Radio.
Today on Network Freaking Marketing Radio, we're going to introduce Mr. Chris Eagle and have an interesting conversation on what you should say and what you should possibly not say on social media. Chris, how are you, sir? How have you been? I appreciate you coming on the show on such short notice.
I'm great, Ryan. Thank you for having me on.
Give you a little background to the audience. Chris Eagle was a congressional candidate in, what is the district up there, 58th?
It's District 4.
District 4 in the Jacksonville, Florida area. He was running for a congressional seat, but didn't make it all the way, but put up a good campaign and kind of pulled out at the last minute, learning a lot about what it takes and where the world is today. But we're here today in a unique facet to where network marketing is and why we have Chris on the show. And it's really about, now, we as marketers, Chris, are very big about online presence. A lot of companies restrict us on what we can and cannot say. We as a company, as Network Freaking Marketing, teach never to talk about your main brand ever, but talk about you and branding yourself. So there's a lot of like bylaws and stuff we have to go through. So what we're trying to get to is you yourself have a pretty large following on social media, correct?
Right.
You know, through building a campaign, I think you learn the good and the bad of what happens to people. You know, it's dirty, dude, isn't it? I mean, let's get right to it.
It is war. It's war. It's war.
I mean, I asked myself, you and I have talked offline a couple times, and I've asked myself, could I ever be a candidate? This is in my skin. And you get attacked a lot, correct?
You get attacked by how you look, by what you say, what you don't say. In this day and age of fake news and having to have third parties fact checking every aspect of our lives when it comes to politics, it's created a war zone that really has no rules now. Our president has taken advantage of one of the greatest tools, social media, and connects with voters in a way that voters have never connected with a president before. And really, the greatest connection is you know exactly what the person's thinking at that particular moment, and you don't have to wait for the evening news to filter it and make it sound a certain way. It's coming direct to you now.
You know, I've always thought that the way our president talks, he's not eloquent. We know that. You know, he's a New Yorker. He is what he is. I'm a Trump supporter. I'll say it straight up on the air. You guys all know it. Most of the guys in this industry or girls are. But and this happens to me in business a lot, and you can probably test it. You have a pretty good CV. I mean, you've been CFO of several different companies and kind of now are in the consulting side of the industry. And you've probably written an email before, and somebody looks at it like, what are you saying? In today's super soft society, and I say that jokingly with people because I look at my emails and I write, and sometimes I'm like, I'm the king of one-liners because I don't want anybody to misconstrue what I'm trying to say. I'd rather pick up a phone and call somebody, especially related to network marketing, because it's easier to convey what we're saying. What is your thought on that?
Well, I think that people look for common ground and similarity in not only relationships, but they look for that in party affiliation. They look for that in charities that they support, companies that they go to work for. And the challenge in politics is the main reason why I'm an independent is that when you start affiliating yourself with parties like the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, especially when you're a candidate, whatever Trump has said, if you're a Republican, people associate that messaging with you. Whatever crazy Nancy Pelosi says, they associate that with all Democrats. And I say that because I'm an independent. If you're a Democrat, you can't call Nancy Pelosi crazy. You can't stand up for what you truly believe, but more importantly, what your constituents want. I mean, there are a lot of things that I have personal feelings about, and especially when it comes down to policy and more of how you execute some of the policy, that I sometimes agree with Democrats from the majority perspective. I oftentimes agree with Republicans, but being independent to look at things from a fact-based perspective gives me more ability to be able to really think about what the real problem is and then what the real solution should like going forward. And that's why when I look at a lot of the symptoms of the problems that we have, whether it's racism or if it's criminal justice reform, what I learned, not just going through literature and reading about what a professor said or what a policymaker said, I sat down with people and asked them, what are the challenges that you face? What are the issues that you feel are most important to you? And as you peel back the layers on a lot of these different problems that we have, it always comes back to education and healthcare. And I include in healthcare, mental health care. So when you start looking at education, you start looking at healthcare, you start getting into those types of facts and figures, what you see is that people that live in an impoverished community or are below the poverty line or just above, they have more issues when it comes to healthcare and education. And so that from a political standpoint is where the dance really begins, because you start getting into some very, very, I'd say, solid policies that people associate with Republicans and people associate with Democrats. And being an independent, I'm able to look at things from both sides.
So let's get into this. Over the last couple of days, some tragic events happened in America. The world as we know it is kind of like in the 70s of protests with certain things, okay? And any violence of any form projected against any American is untolerated. That's my view, and I stick with it 100%. You see today different groups blocking churches, roads, trying to get a message across. I'm all about freedom of speech. But when it goes into a violent aspect of hurting someone, it changes the game. There was a violent attack in California a couple days ago on 2 police officers. We both know that. You had posted some stuff on your page that to some, or to most, would be misconstrued maybe, or not understanding. I think today when people scroll, they see something, they interpret it, they move on, and they form their own opinion in a very fast time. They don't take the time to fact check or see something. Your post, and I'm going to let you elaborate on your story, how it goes here in a second, pissed off a shit ton of people, dude.
Yes, it did.
I mean, I want to get your mindset behind it, where it came from, what did you learn from it, and to help, the one thing I want my listeners to take from this is when we post something, it is out there, it's real, it can be copied, it can be manipulated. If you have kids, protect them from the internet a lot, but what I want people to understand is you're accountable for what you say. Yes, we have freedom of speech, but you are accountable. Agreed?
You are accountable for what you say. Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to give the floor to you now, buddy.
So if we look back on this post that was out on my personal Facebook page, if you look at the dialogue and
you
look
say that pissed everybody off? Let's just go to the elephant in the room. What was the context? I read.
Sure. So there's a series of police-related videos that we've seen in the media. Whether it's been the video that we saw with George Floyd, the video that we've seen for Philando Castile, or any of the other folks that have made major news. And there's a lot of videos that are out there that don't make the major news. And so when we saw the unfortunate incident where we had 2 police officers that were shot, As soon as that video came out, there was a flurry of conversation on the internet about what happened and what was behind it. And immediately what was happening was you were seeing a lot of people talking about, there's a Black Lives Matter protester. That's a person that's protesting and rioting that has done this. You saw a lot of, and I don't know, because at that time we still didn't know, and we still don't know to this day of what was going on, but you saw a lot of folks getting very, very upset about what they witnessed with the video. And so when I started seeing this, and by no way, shape, or form, and I've come out publicly and said this, do I promote the shooting or killing of anyone, especially the two police officers that unfortunately had that happen to them. And thank God that they're not dead and that they're recovering. I mean, I can't even imagine what that would possibly feel like. And that, you know, that is something, as you said at the beginning of your question, that we have to all acknowledge. We cannot resort to violence. We cannot resort to shooting people and going down this, and I don't even think we can even define it right now, type of culture in America that's being formed based upon these real events. These are real people that are dying. These are real people that are getting shot.
Yeah.
So when I started looking at that, yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, is the footage you see on some of this stuff, not that shooting, but I mean, it's almost like some groups or people, I mean, it's small majorities that cause that's doing this, but it's almost like they're rabid dogs at the time that this stuff's going on. The anger that's in this, I mean, I can't even conceptualize with it. And you might be, you know, it's just scary.
Right. And so what I posted, and this was on my personal Facebook page, I've exited the race for District 4 roughly 4 months ago due to developing COVID and blood clots, and I put that out there as well. But what I posed were the same 5 questions that are posed every single time we see a police shooting, whether it's the person dies or the person is wounded or paralyzed. The same 5 questions, not trying to get to a quick snap judgment and accusing the Black Lives Matter group of, you know, paying from Joe Biden's campaign to go have the person do something like this. I mean, that's the craziness of stuff that's out there. So I posted this from a satirical debate standpoint saying, hey, wait a minute, the same police, the same criminal justice system that comes out and puts those same 5 questions every single time, for just like today, we had $12 million awarded for Breonna Taylor's murder, and that was a murder. I mean, there's a lot of information that's out there that talks about her being involved in things, and I mean, forget that. The woman was shot in her home for what is now a $12 million fine to the police department, and then also inside of the laws being able to do away with no-knock warrants and putting different process and procedure in place. So I posed those questions, and my Facebook page is an active debate, as you can probably imagine, of political topics that come up and also topics that apply to the community. What happened was someone took a photo screenshot, and this is definitely a learning for, you know, anyone that's out there, and you know, also myself. Someone takes a photo screenshot, captures one point that they're trying to make, and then they put it out on the internet and saying, Chris Eagle's asking, you know, these 5 questions of something that no question should possibly be asked of. And they took it out of context. And then when people started going to my campaign page to be able to find the post, which now has become the bigger story, which the story should be around the 2 police officers recuperating and us being able to get them healthy and back on the force or whatever they choose to do. Instead, people are saying now that I'm lying and that I deleted the post and that I'm somehow running and hiding. And so that's another story that's trending. That's not indeed the case. The post was never public. It's public now, but the post was a private post that was put out, but someone took a political figure's personal page and then uses that to their advantage to show, and you can see it in some of the feedback, where it's all about anti-Democrat. Anti-Democrat at the presidential level. They're associating the post with Joe Biden's position on the criminal system, any reforms, police officers.
Well, let's stop right there. Let's just talk about something here. When you post something to Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, it's their intellectual rights now. So I say this to people that are in the industry. Anything you post, think about the position you're taking on it. Now, I understand from your perspective, as a candidate, you're going to bring up debate and spark conversation, right? That's what you do to where you can learn the masses and learn what's going on. But also, people, I think, need to think about the way they respond to what they read. You know, I'm reading here on an article right here from Heavy, from a Miss, we'll give the credentials to Jessica McBride put this out yesterday. And you had someone respond to you, "You won't get my vote, asshole. No one will matter what, no one, no matter what, has the right to walk up to a police car and shoot cops." I agree with the guy. But what I'm trying to put here is, we as human beings, even though if we read something that's so far-fetched and out there, the way we respond to things, we're accountable for it. And you take an articulate side to it. Let's talk about some photo ops you've been in. You know, you can be, as a candidate, you're out there and doing different things, right? In the public eye all the time.
You're talking to every type of person, and every person has a different opinion, and they have different challenges, and they think different things about government.
So, you know, we were talking prior to the show start in the green room. You've taken just pictures at parades or fairs or something like that and had that run the wrong way before as well, correct?
Yes. I mean, I very early on in my campaign, as my campaign talked about bringing people together, whether you're in the Black Lives Matter group, you're in a white supremacist group, if you're an American citizen in this country and you're representing as a congressman all of the people in your district, you need to be able to understand all the issues, all the challenges from all of the people. So I never refused to talk to anyone. And so in this instance where I was invited by a group called Moms Demand Action for Second Amendment gun reform, they're proponents of registries, they're proponents of red flag laws in the states, which, by the way,
but
Florida
has.
had.
A photo caused a ton
Yes,
of.
because I took a photo with the Moms Demand Action, and then I made an agreement for the counter protesters that were there to take a picture with them, that their Second Amendment rights, as I believe in the Second Amendment, mean, and their opinions mean as much to me representing them in the district. And so that picture, where I posted on my campaign page, I posted a picture of myself with the Moms Demand Action group. I posted a picture of myself with the counter protesters, which turned out to be the 3%ers. I didn't even know the folks until after all of the press and all the feedback came out. And the spirit in which I posted that was bringing together two different opinions to arrive at a solution that meets all. And it was taken out of context. They took the picture of just me with the 3%ers, called me a racist. I mean, that was a whole, fury of trending articles and what have you, and me defending it. And it just gets to be to the point where you start to think people just don't want to come together. Maybe they do enjoy just individualizing things.
Well, I'm sitting here, I'm reading what you wrote, and I found it. And what you said on the Compton shooting was this: "Where is the video of what happened before this? I don't think we should prejudge this without full content. We can't solely rely on edited video that only shows the shooting. You may just be releasing the clip to inflame the public. How do we know it wasn't justified?" I think the beginning of your post was okay. You're asking a question. Now, it's tragic. We should have said maybe this happened. God forbid the families and stuff like that. Anybody in law enforcement. I want everybody to know we're talking about a delicate subject here today, and there's no way it was justified. There's nothing a police officer could have done that would justify someone walking up and popping him in the head. It is the utmost form of disrespect for human life I think there is. God forbid the guy was sitting there having a sandwich or having a conversation with his kid or saying, singing, reading a book to his child. God knows what was going on in that gentleman's head. And hopefully we'll hear from him. Maybe we can get him on the show. Who knows? But
well, yeah, I mean, right now there's rewards that have been put out, and there's an all-out manhunt for this person. And to go back to your point, there's never a situation to where shooting two people point blank, police officers, you and I sitting in a car, there's nothing that warrants that at all.
People don't respect human life today, my friend.
They don't. I mean, at the level that we're talking about, as far as what the 5 questions that I was asking, concentrating on the sentiments that were building around blaming the individual to be a Black Lives Matter protester, which, later on, I don't know if they were from Black Lives Matter. I think they were from a local coalition group in Los Angeles representing Compton that were apparently 5, 6, 7 people that were standing outside protesting. And those comments were vile. They were wishing.
Horrible. Do we know if were the 2 officers white or black? Was there any race related to this?
I don't believe that anything has come out that's race related.
I don't even know if they were white or black. I mean, LA, let's say LA's had its issues with the police department for years, but it's there's no place for it. Do you agree with that all lives matter, period?
All lives matter. I mean, but that also means that blue lives don't matter more than everyone else in the country. And this is where with all of the individuals that either are pro or con as far as what I had out there, this is where we get into the qualified immunity debate as far as all lives matter and also all laws matter.
Yes, I'll give you that.
Just because you put on a badge does not give you immunity, or it shouldn't give you immunity from shooting someone, from stealing something, from doing or breaking the laws that you're very enforcing.
I think we all, as a whole, or at least in my view, I think any industry is going to have a bad apple, okay? There's going to be in the percentages. Yes. 99.999% of law enforcement. I want to thank you for your service to us in the country. I think you should be well funded. I think you should have all the toys to do that, to keep us safe. I think that's how I sleep at night, knowing, I can go to bed, my kids are safe. Would you agree with that? Saying, I see where you go ahead.
I completely agree with what you're saying, but when it comes to, and I think this was the biggest issue and missed opportunity, that people promoting defunding the police and using that terminology. And I had to catch myself too, because from a business standpoint, I understood what it meant. And because I've talked to people that feel that way, and also the people that feel violently against that, I understand where they're coming from. But for an average person hearing defund the police, you don't connect, I want to start to drive more social programs in the community with those dollars. So at the essence of it, what it's saying is that if we're putting more resources and more dollars into the community, whether it's for after school programs, if it's to enhance the school itself and, be able to put more into the community versus putting it more into law enforcement and policing the streets. There's a budget, there's always going to be a budget. And what that statement means is that it's geared more toward pre-intervention efforts and being able to
keep but people don't know that. The average doesn't think like that.
They don't. No.
They think, let's take all the money away from the cops and shut it down. It doesn't work like that. You're going to have a police presence, or you're going to have either one or two. Either you're going to have a police presence, or you're going to have a militaristic state. That's it.
Right, but But here's the conversation though that no one really wants to have about this, because I actually rented an Airbnb in one of the worst crime supposed related neighborhoods in Jacksonville. And I lived there for a month because I wanted to understand exactly what people went through. I got pulled over in my Lexus when I've never been pulled over in Ponte Vedra, and I got pulled over there. There's more police there. And when you talk to the people that are in the communities, you'll hear one of two things. You'll either hear, get these cops out of here. We don't even want them here. I mean, that is the sentiment. I mean, as crazy as that may sound, that is the sentiment. There are groups of people that feel as if the police force does more harm than good in the communities that they live in. But you talk to other people, and this is normally, the homeowner, the person that's been in the community a while, they're upset that their home values are going down. I mean, just think about it. When you live in a community where there's gun violence, that's where the police focus. People own homes in those communities. They don't want the crime news all over the place. I mean, they would like to know that their investment is just as profitable or returns over a period of time just as much as other people.
As a candidate, you're breaking it down to the masses. We're talking more direct, and that's the way everything is today. For someone to really understand, they have to be a political nut or a juggernaut for that kind of stuff to get into it. Let's change the conversation a little. Let's talk about double standards. All right. This is the way I want to talk about double standards is this. And you're a corporate guy, work for some very large corporations, done pretty well for yourself. You go to work tomorrow, you have a shirt on, BLM maybe, or Trump. Do you feel, as a congressional candidate, ex-congressional candidate, that there's a double standard for corporations for if you or I went to our job dressed like that versus corporations like NFL, MLB, NBA taking on a political agenda for that? What is your theory on that from a congressional standpoint? You understand where I'm going with this?
Well, I can tell you that when organizations like the NFL or brands start to affiliate themselves,
because you're a branding guy. That's what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
We just saw with, God, I forget her name, the rapper with Mountain Dew, where, God, I cannot remember her name right now. But they associated their brand with her, and she had made a comment. I think she was a prostitute earlier in her career. And so now you're having to defend the brand against what's now publicized. You also have the overall company that's out there. So when you start looking at brands and you start looking at self-expression within those brands, there's very little room for a brand to take on society's problems and also be able to sell to all customers.
I don't even have to use Black Lives Matter as that. Let's look at Lululemon. Trying to.
I know the products.
Okay, yeah, I'm a fan of the products, bro. My wife has a lot of them. But they just put out a campaign that was debunking capitalism.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to get at, for our listeners and stuff, what are we trying to convey? I mean, I understand that they're trying. We're talking big brands jumping on board, dude. Big.
Right. But we have to take it back to the 1950s with David Ogilvy, the founder of modern advertising. Mm-hmm. And he said it best: an ad that speaks to everyone speaks to no one. And so if you start to drill down on that, and what he was really saying is that if you take a brand statement, you start to define the attributes of that brand statement, then you're preparing to go to market. If something comes out like what we're seeing right now that the NFL just did, as far as with their overall
they've taken it to a different level. Okay, let's back it up. We can talk sports. Back when Kaepernick was getting on his knee,
right?
It was a one-man solo show. The guy was.
But I can tell you exactly what happens is that these corporations, these large brands, they look at the demographics and characteristics of their customer base. And they make decisions based upon that customer base. And then they also make decisions based upon new customers that they're trying to acquire. And so that's why you see brands starting now to really start looking at not just the essence of the brand, the product, and down to, what's been done in the past, but what we're having in the country right now is we have a major transformation that's happening.
Oh, it's happening before our eyes, dude.
It's
crazy.
Huge. I mean, it's
people
not
are
just
so far left or so far right. There's really, there's not a. It doesn't seem like the runway in the middle. I come from a pretty baseline entrepreneurial standpoint. I believe in capitalism. I believe in promoting yourself. In network marketing, it's all about branding you and bringing value that's more to the table.
Right.
Let me ask you this. So,
we've talked. What you're really asking about with your question is that does a brand have to take on social responsibility?
I think they do. Do you?
I mean, they're
judged in the they're judged in the court of public opinion.
They are, but they're also judged based upon their financial performance. And look at the ratings from the NFL. I mean, if you thought the
they were down, they were way down.
I mean, the negative feedback about the NFL was huge on Sunday.
When you have all teams doing that, it's already bad enough they can't fill a stadium. I mean, how much of a hit they're going to take? It's like Russian roulette for them almost.
Well, this is where we start to come into the brand conversation. The hit that they're going to start to take is when brands refuse to do advertising based upon games and based upon the behavior.
But, you look back, okay, like who was it? Okay, Tiger. Let's use him for example. Okay, Playboy had some fun out there, lost major things as soon as the scandal kicked into his life because he was playing around on the side. Okay, did he affect anybody? No, but now we have organizations that are affecting mainstream life. I mean, people are on two different sides here.
They are on two different sides. And back to your question about going into the companies, they don't leave their lives when they go into those places of employment. The people who actually do return to the office or, sign onto a Zoom like this. And so that's an even bigger question in society right now because, take it back to my post and with police officers. What do you do when you find out that, 10 people on the force have Facebook pages where everything that they're saying is, geared toward one thought?
I personally believe this is my personal belief. I believe if you are in a role of enforcing laws, you should be not banned, but have to take more of a even keel on your not on your beliefs, on what you say in social. I think they should be.
What you're talking about, though,
everybody should be held accountable for what they say. Okay,
right? You won't find a plethora of CIA websites for the people that work there or NSA. So there are certain jobs that are out there that restrict that even knowing where they work based on security and
let's go with talk about teachers. I mean, should teachers be able to put out a
this is another one, right? Exactly. So your kids just went back to school. If you come home and you find out that their teacher is posting about thinks that the new movie on Netflix Cuties is appropriate and sends sends the right message and you don't, what do you do with that? I mean, that's the world that we're living in. And that's why from the beginning of my political campaign, and what upset me the most about the posts that I've put out there and how they've been perceived is that they've been taken out of context.
That's what this whole show is about right there. You hit it the nail on the head. We say things in the world today that can spiral so quickly. And what would you say to the individual who's starting in this business? You know the business model. We've talked offline about it. And that's getting started, that's posting stuff. Do you think they should take a political standpoint? Do you think we should still have freedom of speech in social media? Do you think it should be regulated more? What do you think? Because
Well,
at the end of the day, we got to be accountable for what we say, both putting it out and if I'm chiming in on someone's post line.
right. And we, you know, when I went through and you know, started my political run and went through the motions of selecting, you know, a party and everything else, one of the things I knew that I wanted to be able to do was to tell the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone asked me how I felt about a certain issue, I would tell them exactly how I felt.
It's okay. It's okay to offend people. Guess what happens?
Okay.
We
Now,
spiral debate and we think, God forbid, we actually think a little bit.
right. And so one of the deciding factors that always comes up first is, are you pro-life? Are you for higher or lower taxes? I mean, these 60,000 foot view types
Program
of issues.
questions.
They're programmed. And when people answer them a certain way, I mean, I can't tell you when I was affiliated with the Democratic Party, which they're pretty bad. Not the people, but the party. I would tell you that I inform more voters that there actually is a pro-life function within the Democratic Party. People don't even know that. And so
people don't even know what's going on in real politics.
and that's where you start looking at, you need to take, you know, back to someone starting in this business and thinking before they post. You need to look at everything that it's going to end up just like my posts do all over the internet. And you know what? Get over yourself, right? You're going to get this type of feedback because
Guess
people
what?
are going to.
There's a big saying in this industry. And this isn't. There's a big saying in the industry. When you start making noise, the wolves will come out.
Oh yes, no.
Whether if you're in your business, in your current business model, you know, network marketing is kind of unique. There's like these, let's call it a club, and there's certain people in each club that rise to almost a rock star status when they're within their organization. They're the leader of their temple. Okay, they're the ones that are out there being the face and the brand of these companies that they represent. But they're going to take a lot of flack. Type in network marketing, for crying out loud, into Google. You're going to see more negative than you will positive, given it's a $600 billion industry in the United States. I mean, it's massive and makes more millionaires than out of any other thing. Also, it's the highest salary-based employment for females. There's more women making over $100,000 a year in network marketing than any other career out there. But we get all this negative press because people don't understand.
Right.
And it's so much the same thing that happens to our congressional candidates, to you're out there. Let me ask you a good question. Who are you voting for?
I tell you,
I'm not calling both sides. Just quick one answer. Who are you voting for?
It's the lesser of two evils. I'm going to be voting for Joe Biden. And
really? Okay.
It actually makes me cringe to even say that.
Wow.
And the reason for voting for Joe Biden is because we need stability. We need consistency in this country.
But you can't defend Trump's record. I mean, he's been rocking and rolling on.
I don't disagree when it comes to the economy. I don't disagree when it comes to the military. Don't disagree when it comes to the police and their support that he provides. I don't even disagree when it comes to building secure borders.
Okay, let's just say this from a business owner standpoint. This is just to have some fun here. Do you think our economy will do better? Not anything else. We're talking straight economy. Over the next 4 years, better with Trump or better with Biden?
I would say at this point, with what we're seeing with COVID and getting things going again this is the burning platform right now. It's life or death, and it is.
Oh, it is totally.
With
For a lot
Trump,
of businesses.
With Trump, the economy is going to do better.
Okay.
But you're also going to have a higher death toll. I mean, the COVID is real. I had it myself. And you know, if we look at, you know, what's happening in the country right now, you know, we're opening back up. We're getting things going. And I don't want things to be closed. You know, I think it was, you know, crazy for Joe Biden to say, I'll just close the country down, or, you know, and I'm kind of doing the same thing that people do to me to him. I don't I don't know if he really said in that exact context. I just, I'm going to close it back down. But, he's saying he's going to follow the health and science guidelines. 2 million people are projected, based upon the data that we've seen, to unfortunately pass away. And President Trump has said over and over again, one life is too many. His biggest challenge is he says it like an old style New Yorker, which doesn't hit the heartstrings of the heart. But I definitely think Trump will be better for the economy. But it's also going to be at the sacrifice of lives. And that's an honest conversation that we just need to have, is that we can put all the protections in place. We can do everything we possibly can, but there are still going to be people that die. The question is that worth bringing all of the economy and having everything full blown open again? I mean, we just saw it here in Florida with the bars. I mean, when we shut those back down, we had all the case counts and everything went high. And now we're opening everything else back up. Bars are open again in Florida. So now it's a question of, okay, does this repeat itself again? Are we going to see the case counts go back up? But I'm a believer that the virus is here. Chances are you're going to get it at some point in time. The data says you're going to be okay if you do get it. And I'm not trying to downplay the people that have had it, myself included, that got blood clots, and I could have died. I don't want to say almost died because I don't want people accusing me to be Donald Trump and over-exaggerating things, but it is real. But that's the reality of it, and I believe Americans want that truth. And that's the other point that I side with Biden, and I don't even want to say Biden, side with someone other than chaos, is that I would have liked to have known that back in February. I would have liked to have known that the virus was air. I would have had more respect. If you go back and you read my post that I put out and the speeches that I gave during that time, I was putting 100,000% support behind President Trump. Because I said, look, this is the perfect opportunity for him to finally bring all of Americans together. Everyone can agree the virus is bad. We don't want it. There's not too many people that agree that they want it. So that's a common ground point. Instead, he chose to not tell us the truth or not tell us what he was being told. And so that, to me, is where he missed a huge opportunity. He's losing the trust of Americans. But at the same time, I would have respected him more if he said that.
It's unfortunate any way it goes. I mean, it's affected everyone. But, it's not just COVID is just not, it's affected every industry. Our industry as a whole, with, 6 million people out of work, the majority of good network marketing companies are doing excellent with people. Yes. But I also think that our infrastructure as companies has changed forever. I think a lot of companies have found that they can run leaner and meaner from people working at home, not having to take a big infrastructure. But a lot of people learn something I talk about very nearly to my heart. What is your plan B? How many people have one income, one way to make money? It's been a wake-up call to a lot of people. I mean, I've said my story all the time. I was, working with Segway. A guy walked up to me and said, "Hey, Ryan, do you have a backup plan?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" 90 days later, I'm sitting in an office signing patents, getting rid of, what we were doing. And here's your check. It's the way we are in the world today. Let's go through some rapid-fire questions. I do this to everyone that comes on the show. You ready? First thing that comes to mind.
Sure.
Beer or wine?
I don't drink.
Okay. Oh, bullshit there.
No, I don't drink. I have drank at some point in my life, but I don't drink anymore. I'm telling you, I got COVID. I can go get the blood thinner right now to show you. You can't drink alcohol when you take blood thinner.
Okay, beach or mountains?
Beach.
Car or truck?
Definitely a car.
Okay. Do you like favorite color? Let's go there.
Green.
Why?
It's the color of money.
Scariest thing you've ever heard in your life?
The Bob Woodward tapes.
Half the people are not even going to know what that is.
We finally heard the president say what we already knew he was saying, or at least some of us thought we knew what he was saying.
Are you continuing a political career?
You know, I started this. Yes.
Okay. Now I'll give you the floor to tell me why.
In the midst of the, 60,000, I think it's gotten up to now, pieces of feedback from people regarding the posts that were shared. The one call that I received and feedback that I got, and then I had a conversation with the guy, was from a individual, young man, 19 years old, that's just getting ready to join law enforcement. So he's going into law enforcement. And so we talked about, all of the, the risks of going into it. And so we had a conversation that was a human to a human conversation about going into that profession. And I've talked to people that don't have health care. I talk to people that have all these, and their personal issues that for me, if I can use the skills that I've developed over time, if I can use the ability to be able to sit down with people and have a conversation and get to some common ground to help individuals, then that's what I want to be able to do. And so that's what keeps me in politics or keeps me active, is that I do really want to help people at the end of the day. But as I'll say this, I don't want to give anything away for free. And I also want to be able to get people to think about things differently. You and I have had this conversation about climate change. Forget about, the sea level rise or any of the scientific, based examples. What I talked about, and you've heard this before, is that start looking at your insurance premiums. If you don't think climate change is real, look at the commercial insurance industry. Look at the residential homeowners that live next to the coast. They would tell you, the people that have gone through, the hell on earth in California and Oregon with these wildfires, if they've survived, God bless them. And, their insurance premiums are going to be going through the roof. So I try to look at issues and look at them from both perspectives to be able to get to that common ground so that everyone understands why the issue is important personally to them.
Well, I mean, we're on a network marketing show. We're not going to talk about climate change right now. I mean, you are a politician at heart, my friend. I will tell you that. Trying to
if your network marketing is near the ocean, you are concerned.
I mean, everybody should be concerned.
We can't even get people to put damn masks on. I mean, come on. You think people are really worried about climate change? I mean,
not really. I mean, as Americans, we're so stuck in our ways. We do things. Give me this. Give me one tip you would recommend someone starting in business today in the network marketing industry.
One tip?
Yeah.
Just one.
One tip. Maybe in branding, we can go there a little bit.
This applies to both branding as well as you as an individual. Role clarity. One of the things that I saw in all levels of business and all throughout my career were individuals not understanding what their role is and really writing down, what is my role? If you're a project manager, my role is to deliver projects. How do you execute?
Talking about people starting their own business.
And this, what is the role of my business?
Okay.
What role, and specifically when someone's starting their own business, this is even more important because you're the only employee. So you're thinking about your role. Your role is going to serve many different functions. But when you start nailing down, what exactly am I doing? If I'm in network marketing, it's my job to communicate the essence of the brand to all potential customers, or is my job to create the content to then use the social media platforms to drive that messaging out? Or do I do both? Those are the things where people, and when you drive down to what your role is, you start looking at, okay, to execute this and to meet my goals, I might need other people or other companies to be able to facilitate the execution of the role. But
Kinda
just
like-
starting with that one thing, and I did hundreds.
Kind of like putting a real game plan together. But the role, I like the way you came up with that, because so many people get in and they get deer in the headlights because they've never operated. Even though 90% of the business stuff, the manufacturing, the marketing, the fulfillment is all taken care of you by your company. People just so many people think they can go out there and just make a couple of posts and take a picture with their little super secret drink or the milkshake or the magic pills or whatever the heck it is, and they're going to make $1 million. A lot of people don't understand that this is a real business, and you have to treat it that way. You have to treat it as a sales job, to where you're getting up every day, and the biggest thing you can do is follow up.
Follow up, and also, back to defining your role, know what resources you need to leverage to execute your role. You don't need everything, but there's certain things that you need. And if you're talking about individual products, you need to understand the benefits of those products.
Yep.
If you're talking about, the benefits of the products, you need to talk about which individuals do you know that actually benefited personally. It's those deeper connections that people are looking for. People can go out and buy many, many different products, but when people start looking at what am I getting, what are the benefits from this product, that gets back to the role clarity. If that person doesn't understand that, then the person starting the business and then going forward with it hasn't done their job, or execute.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Or execute their role, more importantly.
Well, Chris, I want to thank you, sir, for coming on. I think we learned a little bit about the craziness in politics, especially from your side. We learned a little bit about maybe we should take a little step back before we prejudge people. I think we learned a little bit about anything we say, we're going to be accountable for too.
Yes. Anything you say, you're going to be, anything said will be held against you or for you.
And people, stop being such saps. Get out there and be out there and get to work. Put on the real big boy and big girl shoes. Don't be afraid to talk. It's okay to spur debate. It's okay to have people think. Chris, I want to thank you for coming on Network Freaking Marketing Radio. Guys, if you like what you heard today on the show, I recommend jump over to ryanpennell.com or networkfreakingmarketing.com, to where we give away an awesome book, How I Made My First $10 Million by Brian Carruthers. Click the upper right-hand side and you'll learn more, and it's a great valuable tool to help you build your business.
Hey guys, it's Ryan here from Network Freaking Marketing Radio. If you like what we're doing, head over to iTunes and give us a like.